Welcome to the Goldsmith. On today's program, we're going to fabricate a split shank bezel set gold+opal ring out of 14 karat yellow gold. I'm sure you'll find it interesting, so join us, won't you? Welcome to the Goldsmith. Hi, I'm Kendrick Thompson, and as you can see, I'm surrounded by the natural beauty of the Great Smoky Mountains here in East Tennessee. You know, this area has always enjoyed a rich tradition of artisan craftiness. It's in keeping with this heritage that I like to fabricate or construct jewelry with a little more hands-on approach than the typical lost wax casting method known to most. Instead of pouring molten metal into a mold shaped like the final product, we're going to pour the metal into a roughly shaped rod called an ingot. This ingot will then be passed through the rolling mill several times, each time with a smaller clearance between the rollers. This shapes the metal into what's called stock, and it's this stock that we'll use to construct our creation. The first few mill passes begin to compress our ingot into a more uniform square shape. Though still very irregular here, a few more passes will plumb the shape and deform the metal to about 60 to 65% reduction. That's the point at which I like to perform the first annealing stage with this type of 14 karat yellow alloy. Every time a piece of metal is bent, beaten, milled, or drawn, that kinetic energy is stored in the metal as potential energy, or stress, and must be annealed or heat-treated regularly throughout the process to relieve the stress and keep the metal from breaking. An induction melter works well for annealing yellow gold because of its ability to efficiently maintain a high temperature. We'll anneal this piece at about 600 degrees Celsius for about half an hour. This slow annealing stage helps to achieve a dead soft state, ideal for further milling. After cooling just a little bit in the air, we quench the metal and freeze its crystalline structure to a very workable state. You might ask, why the trouble of milling when you could pour your metal into shape, then polish it and be done? The fact is, this milling process adds many favorable characteristics to the metal, as well as reducing many undesirable traits that are common in as-cast metal. Reduced to around 3.5 millimeters, we'll anneal and begin passing our stock through the flat section of the rollers. This elongates and reduces the stock further to about 1.5 millimeters thick, and also widens the stock by almost a millimeter. Our piece of 14 karat yellow gold stock has been milled to specification and annealed. Now it's time to begin shaping it into a ring. This we do in the most brutish manner by simply striking it repeatedly with a mallet against a round form called a mandrel. We mark the desired length with a scribe. If possible, mark the cut on stock that is already curved a little, as the desired arc may be a little harder to produce once the join is made. Placing our stock, which is now formed what we call a ring blank, on the sawing jig, we lube the blade, line up the cut, and saw. It's very important to either work close to the back of your jig or stop short of a clean cut, because once that saw blade cuts its last grain of metal, it will come to rest on whatever is in its path. Having filed our freshly cut end flat and manipulated the bends so that the ends are lined up, we fit the joint by running the saw blade through the unsoldered joint. This will ensure a perfect, flat, end-to-end fit and will create a very strong bond when flown with hard solder. This works great for a sizing joint, and though that's what this looks like, it's actually the top of our opal ring. It'll all become clear soon. Applying some flux and some 14 karat hard yellow solder, we prepare to make the first joint. Heat is applied gently at first, using wide strokes. Then we focus our heat a little more intensely on the seam to flow the solder and close the joint. With the first joint made, our stock has begun to resemble a ring. When we come back, we'll start on the bezel setting. Stay tuned.